Today we're going to talk about snakes because they're everywhere in this world, which can be good for the ecosystem, but also bad for people who not only fear snakes, but also don't want to be attacked by them. Depending on the species, they can be incredibly aggressive, especially when they think they're about to catch a meal. And the problem is that sometimes they bite off more than they can chew, both literally and figuratively. Because while many animals are afraid of snakes, some aren't afraid to fight back when the moment comes. So, here are 20 times snakes messed with the wrong opponent. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's get started. Number 20. Chicken versus snake. I'll start this combat story with an account of a chicken facing off against a snake, a creature that, at first glance, seems like an unbeatable predator with all its stealthy hunting traits and deadly venom. However, this video has a much more surprising outcome than you might think. In this situation, a king cobra finds itself face to face with a mother hen and her chicks, who are literally cornered in a dead end. There's some debate about how natural this encounter was, especially considering it's being filmed by someone who, apparently, doesn't mind not intervening and seems to be just watching it all happen. But for now, let's focus on the protagonists of this story, the animals, especially the snake. The snake involved is a king cobra, one of the most venomous snake species in the world. A single bite from this snake and both the hen and her chicks would be dead in a matter of minutes. However, almost counterintuitively, the mother hen not only manages to deal with the snake effectively, but also forces it into a corner where it can't harm the chicks. We all know how far mothers will go to protect their children, but this scene offers an impressive visualization of that protective instinct. Notice how the hen is not just pecking at the snake, but also using her wings strategically and making loud sounds to appear as an even bigger threat than she really is. This technique is actually quite common in the animal kingdom, as appearing larger or more imposing than the enemy can, in many cases, intimidate it enough to make it retreat. And even when the snake tries to attack the chicks again, the hen remains relentless in her defense. At a crucial moment, she even manages to corner the snake, creating an opportunity for her chicks to escape safely. Honestly, it's not until the final minutes of the video that we see the king cobra really act as you would expect, rising up for an attack, which shows just how dominant the mother hen was, preventing the snake from positioning itself to attack for over a full minute. When the snake finally attacks, the hen simply evades the strike with ease. This all proves that, while some creatures, like a snake, might seem the most terrifying and imposing, in certain circumstances, a mother hen can face any threat without hesitation, showing impressive courage and unwavering determination. Number 19. Prairie dog versus snake. Now, let's talk about a creature that is definitely not first to volunteer to face a snake, the prairie dog. Sure, these little animals can be somewhat bothersome at times, especially when they're in large numbers, but they're not the most intimidating threats you could imagine, particularly considering that snakes, known for their agility and lethal venom, can strike quickly and consume prey the size of a prairie dog with ease. However, the big mistake many people make is underestimating creatures like prairie dogs because of their size and seemingly harmless appearance. In reality, these animals are incredibly intelligent, brave, and know how to take care of each other in an impressive way. In an episode of the Discovery Channel, during one of its documentary series, a snake entered an area full of prairie dogs. Due to their keen senses, the prairie dogs not only sense that a threat is approaching, but they also use a highly effective communication system, emitting a unique set of sounds like barks to alert other members of the group about the impending danger. When the snake gets close to one of the prairie dog pups, the mother immediately rushes out to defend it. It's worth mentioning that the snake in question isn't just any snake. It's a rattlesnake, one of the most venomous snakes in the world, whose bite can be fatal even to a human, let alone a small prairie dog. But the mother, without hesitation, doesn't care about the imminent danger because she knows exactly what her mission is. Her goal isn't to fight the snake directly, but to draw it away, leading it away from where her pups and other members of the group are. And indeed, she accomplishes this feat remarkably. The mother manages to divert the snake's attention and lead it away, ensuring that the tunnels where her pups and other prairie dogs are hiding remain safe. She then sends clear and decisive signals to the rest of the group, informing them that the threat has been neutralized and that everything is fine. In the end, these prairie dogs are surprisingly intelligent, showing courage and cunning that often go unrecognized at first glance. Number 18. Honey badger. Now let's talk about the infamous honey badger, a creature that became widely known thanks to a viral video that circulated some time ago. But how much do you really know about these animals? True to its viral fame, the honey badger is indeed a remarkable creature, famous for its impressive ability to resist just about anything. They can take a beating and still move forward, often attacking creatures that are many times larger than them, without any sign of fear. And most impressively, they don't hesitate to use their weight to prove they aren't afraid of anyone or anything. In a particularly notable story, a honey badger met its match in a python. Although the honey badger has incredibly tough skin, which helps it withstand various types of attacks, it's not immune to things like strangulation, something pythons specialize in. The snake, seizing the opportunity, wrapped its body around the honey badger and began to squeeze with force, trying to crush it to death. This should have been the end for the badger, right? However, what happened next was something no one could have expected. This honey badger had some unexpected allies who entered the fight to help it. A pair of jackals appeared on the scene, and while the snake was distracted trying to suffocate the badger, the jackals attacked the snake, giving the badger a chance to escape death's grip. But instead of simply fleeing, the honey badger decided to reward its saviors in a rather peculiar way. It not only ran off but helped the jackals kill the snake, making it clear who would be the ultimate winner of the battle. But as often happens in the animal world, the jackals and the badger didn't exactly become friends after that. Contrary to what you might think, the honey badger wasn't grateful, and instead of allowing its allies to take a good portion of the snake as a thank you for their help, it didn't hesitate to fight for every piece of the meal. This shows that, although a honey badger may be immensely grateful for being saved, it isn't willing to be altruistic when it comes to food, and its priorities will always be its own survival and gain. This is indeed a true example of how relentless nature works in the animal kingdom. Number 17. Squirrel versus snake. Before diving into this video, I want to make a small note about the people filming this scene. After all, what exactly were they doing while this battle of nature unfolded right in front of their eyes? Were they just watching? Doing nothing? Wouldn't it have been more sensible to take some action? We even see one of the cameramen stepping in front of the camera at one point, which, to be honest, is a bit annoying. I mean, seriously, why not try to help the animal against the snake? Were they just hoping the snake wouldn't kill it? Or maybe a bit of common sense wouldn't hurt, right? Not everything has to be for entertainment. Sometimes we must remember that in a life or death situation, action may be required. Now, back to the story. We have another fascinating video, this time showing a completely unlikely creature facing off against a snake. And who is this tough fighter? A squirrel. When the video starts, what we see is basically a standoff between the two. A moment of silent tension. The snake isn't doing anything and the squirrel, in turn, is just sitting next to it, as if nothing is happening, with its typical squirrel behavior, carefree and curious. Snake, not a problem, at least not for the squirrel, who seems more interested in its own business. Come on, squirrel, let's go, squirrel team. However, eventually, the snake moves and starts getting a little closer to the squirrel, and that's when the squirrel goes wild, beginning to act very differently than it was before. You might think the snake would have a speed advantage due to its attack ability and precision, but have you ever seen a startled squirrel running? They have an incredible reaction speed, and as expected, the squirrel starts moving rapidly and using hit-and-run tactics, making it clear to the snake that capturing it won't be easy. The squirrel isn't going down without a fight, and in fact it does very well at evading the snake. No matter how you look at it, the squirrel is making it clear that it won't be the snake's meal. In the end, the snake leaves empty-handed, while the squirrel, with its cleverness and speed, stays free. Number 16. Mongoose versus cobra. There are some rivalries in the animal kingdom that, at first glance, might seem exaggerated, but are in fact very, very real. One of these rivalries is the tension between the mongoose and snakes, a contest so intense that it has become a true icon in nature, even reaching the world of games as we see in Pokemon. And if you're wondering how this rivalry unfolds in real life, the Smithsonian Channel managed to capture one of these encounters, providing a fascinating view between a mongoose and a snake. Now, the irony of this story is that the confrontation doesn't begin with the mongoose facing the snake immediately. In fact, the encounter starts with a ground squirrel trying to defend itself from the snake. Initially, things are going well for the squirrel, but soon it begins to feel a bit paranoid and, consequently, starts to retreat. And that's the big problem, because the snake, with its speed and accuracy, can easily take advantage of the situation and dominate. But it's at this very moment that the situation changes dramatically. Here comes the mongoose. And unlike the squirrel, the mongoose doesn't hesitate and goes straight into confrontation without fear. It is completely fearless in facing the snake, and not even the snake's deadly venom or its attack advantage intimidates it. The mongoose has a single goal: to defeat the snake and protect the squirrels. They indeed have quite a special relationship, a unique partnership in this region. The irony here is that, technically, the snake wins the encounter since it manages to strike the mongoose with a bite. However, what the snake doesn't know is that the mongoose is immune to the snake's venom. This means that, despite its bite, the snake is forced to accept a small victory and retreat before the mongoose strikes back. The mongoose, for its part, survives, but knows very well not to continue the pursuit because, although resilient, it understands that continuous exposure to venom could eventually weaken its defenses. Sometimes in nature, a true victory doesn't happen, and what we see is a draw, where both sides are forced to retreat. In the end, the mongoose holds its ground, but knows the battle is not fully won yet. Number 15. Rabbit versus snake. Now you're probably wondering how exactly a rabbit could defend itself and even defeat a snake. After all, snakes hunt rabbits all the time and have a terrifying ease in attacking them, bringing them down, and often swallowing them if the rabbits can't escape in time. But, as you may know, nature isn't as simple as black and white, and the struggle for survival can have unexpected outcomes. When the video begins, we're facing the worst possible scenario for these rabbits. The snake is already in the rabbit's nest and begins to tighten the life of one of the babies, putting its life at risk. The desperate cries of the baby asking for help are clearly audible, and it's frightening to realize that, meanwhile, humans are watching from afar, without offering any help. The mother rabbit, upon noticing the threat, enters the scene in a brave and determined manner. She leaps toward the snake with the intent of driving it away from her babies. Have you ever seen a rabbit act so aggressively before? Well, they can be much fiercer than you might imagine, with a bravery that surprises. They can be as fast and strong as a boxer, like Muhammad Ali in his prime, or any determined hunter. The rabbit runs all over the yard, not giving up, chasing the snake and ensuring it doesn't return to the babies. In several scenes, we can see the snake trying to retreat quickly, but the rabbit keeps chasing it, not allowing the threat to get near her little ones. And that's exactly why, no matter the species, you should never mess with a mother's children. A mother's protective instinct is so powerful that it can turn even an apparently defenseless rabbit into a true warrior. The lesson here is clear. Mothers will always find the strength to protect their children, no matter the danger. Number 14. Falcon versus snake. Although snakes like to feel as if they are the best around and at the top of the food chain, the reality is quite different. They are predators in many ecosystems, but that doesn't mean they can't be hunted or removed from their position. And for this snake, the life lesson came the hard way, when it soon found itself in the talons of a red-tailed hawk. Hawks don't hesitate to attack snakes, as they literally dive down on them and use their talons precisely to capture them, ensuring that neither the snake nor its venom gets anywhere near. Soon, the hawk has the snake under control. Even when the snake tries to fight back, the hawk quickly puts it in its place. Size, without a doubt, makes a difference when it comes to predators and prey, especially when we're talking about hunters as skilled as hawks. In the end, the snake definitely didn't have a good day. Number 12. Dogs versus snakes. The next video is, in fact, an impressive compilation of various attacks between snakes and dogs. The big question that arises is, can dogs truly be considered the best defense against a snake? Well, in the vast majority of situations, the answer is yes. And the reason is quite simple and logical. Dogs have extraordinary senses, especially their sense of smell, which allows them to detect the approach of potentially dangerous snakes with incredible anticipation. Due to their remarkable perception, there are records of dogs bravely coming to the rescue of their owners, who often don't realize the imminent danger approaching thanks to their lack of familiarity with these creatures. Another factor that dogs have in their favor when it comes to facing snakes is their impressive bite force, which is clearly observed in several scenes in this video. They can literally grab the snake with their jaws and, in many cases, shake it vigorously, which prevents them from worrying about being bitten back. This action is a reflection of the natural ability dogs have to neutralize threats effectively. However, there is an important consideration. If a dog is facing a venomous snake, it will need to deal with the real risk of poisoning, as the vast majority of dogs do not have immunity to snake venom. Therefore, it is highly dangerous and irresponsible to put a dog's life at risk in in this manner, even if it's trying to protect its owner or itself. Despite the risks involved, dogs often take a stand against snakes, as they perceive these creatures as a significant threat and intuitively know that they need to be eliminated to ensure safety. In some situations, dog breeds have even been specifically trained to hunt snakes and neutralize them, showing the level of specialization these animals can achieve when facing this type of threat. Number 11. Giant centipede versus snake. I want to start this video with a warning, as the content you're about to see can honestly be a bit disturbing. A snake seemingly found an interesting meal when it came across a giant centipede. However, what seemed like an easy meal for the snake turned into something completely different. It actually became the dish where the giant centipede took full control of the situation. Yes, the giant centipede is a truly impressive creature, and it doesn't hesitate to attack a snake on certain occasions to expand its menu and satisfy its hunger. It's quite a disgusting scene, and as I mentioned at the beginning, it might be something not for every stomach. We can't forget that giant centipedes are venomous animals, which means they can withstand a snake's venom with equal intensity or even more. However, in this specific case, the confrontation turned into a real exchange of bites. That alone would be terrifying to witness. But the story doesn't end there. There is another, even more shocking tale to be told. On another occasion, it was recorded that a giant centipede approached a snake while it was lying down, calmly laying its eggs, and attacked it. The sight of this is simply cruel, as the snake was in its most vulnerable state. Attacking a snake in this condition is an immensely unfair act. This kind of cruelty, although part of the reality of the animal kingdom, reminds us of how brutal and merciless the wild world can be. Number 10. Secretary bird versus snake. The secretary bird may not be a very well-known bird to everyone, but it is undoubtedly one of the predators that snakes should fear the most. It is practically specialized in the art of hunting snakes and has shown its unbeatable skill in the fight against these reptiles over time. Its Latin name, Sagittarius serpentarius, literally translates to snake hunter, which is quite impressive. And indeed, by observing this bird's behavior, it is clear that it is a master when it comes to facing snakes. And interestingly, it doesn't seem to care at all about the danger they represent. The secretary bird confronts snakes with surprising frequency, especially since it spends most of its time on the ground, unlike many other birds that prefer to fly through the skies. This trait is one of the reasons why it has become an icon among bird enthusiasts, and also a symbol of the rich biodiversity that characterizes the African continent. Although its diet is predominantly composed of insects, rodents, reptiles, and small mammals, what truly makes it famous is its incredible ability to kill snakes with a single, quick, and crushing strike of its powerful legs. The way it handles these snakes is nothing short of impressive. The secretary bird is seen as a symbol of protection, strength, and vigilance in various African cultures. It figures on coats of arms, such as those of Sudan and South Africa, representing exactly these qualities. Its imposing size and predator skills make it the perfect choice for combating snakes. And perhaps that's why snakes, in general, should truly be grateful it hasn't spread across the world. Number 9. Weasel versus snake. Weasels are an interesting species to discuss, especially because they are not exactly known for being great fighters when it comes to facing snakes. In fact, they don't typically seek direct confrontations with snakes. And that's okay, because not every animal needs to be an instant killer or an unbeatable hunter. Due to how their names have been adopted in pop culture, it's easy to imagine that these creatures prefer to flee at the threat of a snake. However, as this video clearly demonstrates, weasels are not afraid to fight when the situation truly calls for it. In the clip, we see a snake and a weasel in a kind of standoff, with both becoming quite animated as they climb up and down the tree. Although, in the end, no one can be considered the winner of the fight, what really stands out is that weasels are not without some skill and have enough courage to face threats when necessary. This shows us that, although they don't seek out fights, they do not hesitate to defend themselves when the situation demands it. Number 8. Hedgehog versus snake. Now, you might be thinking, based on the interesting topic we discussed earlier, that snakes probably avoid confronting hedgehogs the same way they avoid porcupines, due to the spines covering much of their bodies. And indeed, this is largely true. Snakes know that these spiny creatures are extremely difficult to handle. However, there is one small detail that you may not know about hedgehogs, and it changes the perspective of this situation. What many people don't realize is that hedgehogs have an incredible immunity to several different types of venom. This means that even if a hedgehog were faced with a highly venomous snake, such as a king cobra or even an inland taipan, the venom simply wouldn't affect it, thanks to a natural protein protein in its body that neutralizes these toxins. And if you can believe it, hedgehogs are even capable of avoiding poisoning by arsenic, which is absolutely remarkable. Because of this natural resistance to venom, snakes ultimately tend to just avoid confronting hedgehogs, knowing that their bite or venom won't be effective. Number 7. Wild turkeys versus snake. It may seem surprising, but turkeys actually hunt snakes. A hunter had the opportunity to witness this unique scene in nature. Not only does a turkey chase a snake, but they even try to actively hunt it, even when the snake seeks refuge in water. This might not be exactly what you expected, considering turkeys have large and bulky bodies, which become easy prey if the snake manages to strike. Additionally, they cannot fly, which further limits their escape options. But apparently, the turkeys don't care about these challenges. They continue pecking and stabbing at the snakes with persistence until they get what they want. In some situations, it's the turkeys that end up having the feast in the end. Number 6. Secretary bird versus snake. If you've ever wanted to witness a secretary bird in action, you don't have to look far, as in this video, you'll see this bird chasing a snake. Although at first it might not seem like the most impressive or aggressive bird in the world. As you'll observe, it is an extremely fast creature and capable of delivering a fatal strike in a matter of seconds. Even in the face of the snake's quick and venomous attacks, the secretary bird manages to use its agility to dodge and confront this threat with mastery, delivering a single, deadly blow that ends the confrontation. It only took one precise strike from the bird to finish the battle, and shortly after, it headed to the bushes to devour its prey. Number 5. Crane versus snake. By now you've probably noticed that I've shown several birds chasing snakes in this video, and upon reflecting on this, it's clear that this is a plausible logic. After all, birds are generally much larger than snakes and have great skill in delivering quick strikes, which allows them to avoid the bites or venom of the serpents. As you'll see in this video of a crane in the wild, it has no trouble confronting a snake, emerging victorious with its meal in its beak. And for martial arts enthusiasts, the crane and snake fighting style was inspired by a man who dreamed of a snake and crane in a battle. He observed the graceful movements of both, trying to attack and block each other's strikes, and from that vision, he developed the set of movements we know today. Number 4. Lesser adjutant stork versus snake. Now, we move on to another fascinating bird story, this time featuring a smaller species of stork, known as the lesser adjutant stork. Observing this bird, it's easy to understand one of the main reasons why it represents a great threat to a snake: its massive, powerful beak. While many birds are known for their sharp and versatile beaks, the lesser adjutant stork stands out for having a considerably larger beak than average. And as you'll see in the video, when the confrontation between these two occurs, the stork doesn't hesitate and swiftly captures the snake, keeping it at a safe distance, which makes it extremely difficult for the snake to bite or strike with venom. The lesser adjutant stork is primarily found in the southern and southeastern regions of Asia and is well known for its appearance, which is reminiscent of something prehistoric. Its head and neck are featherless, and its body is large and imposing. However, despite its robust size and posture that may seem somewhat awkward, this bird plays a crucial role in the ecosystem and is extremely fascinating to observe. They typically measure about 1.2 meters in height, with a wingspan reaching up to 2.1 meters, and their weight ranges from 3.5 to 6 kilograms. While the lesser adjutant stork is not particularly inclined to hunt snakes, its diet usually includes fish, amphibians, reptiles, small mammals, insects, and even carrion. Yes, you read that correctly. These birds are scavengers, and this behavior of consuming remains plays an extremely important ecological role, helping to maintain the balance and cleanliness of the environment. At the end of this video, the bird is already enjoying its meal, while the snake, completely defenseless, can no longer react or defend itself. And although this outcome may seem sad at first, it is in fact just another facet of nature in its continuous cycle of life and death. Number 3. Heron versus snake. The heron is yet another bird that a snake should fear and avoid at all costs. The reason this bird holds such a high place on the list of feared predators is not much different from other birds: its sharp, powerful beak. When a heron sets out in search of its meal, it doesn't just use its beak to capture the prey, it employs it with impressive precision, using it to pierce and literally impale its victim. While it's more common to see the heron using its hunting skills on fish, it doesn't hesitate to apply the same lethal technique against snakes, as we can observe observe in this video. The snake can twist and try to escape as much as it wants, but in the end, its fate becomes inevitable. The heron is relentless, and with a precise strike, it secures its meal, leaving no chance for escape. Number 2. Opossum versus snake. A creature you might not imagine to be a threat to snakes is the opossum. After all, it is the inspiration behind the expression "playing dead," as in several situations, this animal pretends to be dead to deceive a predator into thinking it's lifeless. And yes, that includes a snake. However, as you'll see in this video, when the opossum accidentally encounters a family of copperhead snakes, an incredibly dangerous and venomous species, it doesn't back down one bit. And why would it? Well, the answer is simple. Like other animals on this list, the opossum is completely immune to snake venom. To make the situation even more impressive, the opossum actually feeds on snakes, including copperheads, on a regular basis. So, forget about playing dead. If it wants, it will turn that snake into its meal without hesitation. And fortunately for this particular snake, it didn't want to be the main course that day. Number 1. Fox versus snake. Finally, we come to the fox, which indeed hunts snakes to secure its meal, as shown in this compilation video. However, unlike animals like the opossum or the hedgehog, the fox does not have immunity against a snake's bite or venom. Therefore, its survival and ability to enjoy its meal completely depend on its ability to land a fatal blow quickly without being struck by the snake's venom. While there are occasions when the fox can survive a venomous bite, this is not guaranteed. As with many situations in nature, landing the first blow and eliminating the threat before the opponent can strike may be the difference between life and death. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Don't forget to check out other interesting content appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.